Okay, so we are just going to take off from where we stopped last week. Acknowledge if you can hear me clearly, please, and drop your hands. We're done with that question. Okay, good. All right. Okay. All right. So let's just move to control flow, right? So for control flow statements allow you to control the execution of code based on certain conditions, right? So the whole idea of the control flow is to just help you organize your execution. So let's say maybe you want one thing to happen before the other, or you want one thing to happen if a particular condition is met. That is where the control flow comes in, right? So let me just give you a basic example of let's calculate the area of a rectangle, right? So let's start with length. Yeah, I should have asked this first. What's the formula for calculating the area of a rectangle? Just
Okay.
reply in the text box, don't unmute. Okay, so what? Someone is writing on my screen again today. Please. Okay, so length, yeah, length. Okay, yeah, sure, I'll do that for you. Okay. Let me know if that's okay. I'm waiting for your acknowledgement. Is that okay? So is this Zoom okay for you guys? I didn't get a response. Okay, it's okay. All right, okay. All right. Let's continue then. So you guys say it's length times breadth, Abi? So let's say length equals to let length of the triangle equals to 5, and let the width equals to 3. Yeah. Okay. So here now, if you want to calculate this, you say let area equals to length times the width. Are you following? So if we console.log this, yeah, so if you console.log this, we should get the result as 15, right? Because it's a multiplication. So this is simple control flow, right? So it gets more complicated when you now want to have conditions and and when you want to execute some kind of things at some places of your code and all that, right? So let's assume that we want to check the number. We want to check if a number is even or odd, right? Is acknowledge if you are lost. If you are lost, just write it in the text box. I can see it. I would slow down for you. Okay. How about now? Can you hear me now? Let me join with another device. So let's see if the sound improves.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so all right, so can you hear me now? Is it better, or should I go back to the other device? Just write in the text box. This is better. Okay, all right, cool. All right, and let's use this. So, all right, excellent. Okay. So now, so we want to check for if a number is an even number or an odd number, right? So we want to check even. Okay, so let's define the number we want to check, right? As a equals to, let's say 7, right? So how do we know if a number is odd? Just tell me in the text box. Let's assume we want to check this number now. Theoretically, what will we do to check if this number is an odd number or not? Not code wise now, just from like what do you think? I'm waiting. Please help me adjust the screen. Hello guys, can anyone hear me? Acknowledge if you can hear me. Okay, yeah, so yeah, hold on. Yeah, apologies. I had a little network glitch. Well, it's fine now. I understand you cannot see my screen right now, so I'm going to be sharing it again. Acknowledge when you can see my screen. All right, okay, let's move. Okay, so back here. Yeah, so the question was, how do we check for an even number? So let me see your response. Okay, good. So yeah, so if we want to check now, we are going to use the modulus operator because we want to see if when divided there is a remainder, and if when divided there is no remainder. So that's how we are going to know if it's a whole number or an even number. So apparently, a whole number is supposed to divide and have no remainder. Yeah. So what we'll do now is we'll say if, right, and then we'll define that if a is divisible by 2 and what's left is 0, right? We want something to happen. So we want to say this is even. Yeah, so I think I might have defined the two even. I might have confused you guys with even and odd, right? So yeah, so the first even is when it divides through without a remainder. So why did nobody correct me in the chat box? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Someone should write in the chat box. Why didn't you correct me when I said it? So let's try to make the class an interactive class. When you see that something is not the way it should be, are you serious? Okay, oh, okay, my bad. All right, let's keep going now. All right. So from here, we want to say else. We're not going to use an else if. We just go else. We want to say console log odd number. All right, so with this now, then, because this is an odd number, right? It's going to print odd number to our console. But assuming we had like an even number here, it's going to print even number to our console. Is this something you don't understand? Do I need to do any explanation with regards to this? Okay, all right. So we should still see what it looks like here. So it's even number because it's 6. So if we change it to 7, we should have an odd number. All right. All right, let's keep going. I want us to be as fast as possible because we have a lot to cover. So let's check if a number is positive, negative, or 0. Right? I just want us to do like different examples of a control flow so that we'll get used to it, right? Okay, I think this is also basic. Let's do it. So let's assume that I want to check if it's positive, the number is positive, negative, or 0, and we define the number as b, right? Equals to 0. Okay. So now we say if, then we define our argument. If b
is greater, if B is greater than 0, that means it's positive, right? Okay. So if B is greater than 0, it's positive. You can console log positive number. Then I want to say else if B is less than 0, that means it's a negative number, yeah? So we'll console log that. Then we'll go ahead and now say else print 0. So tell us this, that means this number is 0, because if it is not negative or positive, that means the number is 0. Do you understand? Do you understand what is happening here? All right, cool. Okay, all right. So somebody's still drawing on my screen. I don't know. You guys need to help me out. So let's keep going. So if we console log this now, because this number is 0, right? We are going to get 0 here on the console. But if we change this number, let's say we give it a -5, right? And we check it, we get negative number. Same thing happens when you give it a positive number. It should be able to tell you that this is a positive number. Are we clear? Okay, so else if it's like this is let's say you are defining your if statement, right? And then you say if something, right? Else if is like saying I still have another argument I want to make, right? Yeah, I understand. I'm trying to respond to Elijah. So else if here is like saying I still have another argument I want to pass, right? So I now say else if. So that's if this one doesn't work, if this one does not apply to this number, then I want to have another if statement. That's why we have the else before the if. So this else now is like saying do something else if this one does not work, if this one is not appropriate for this number, do something else. But in this case, I want to do another if, because I want to pass another argument, right? Elijah, do you understand? Okay, good. Then for here now, because we are not passing any argument again, we can just say else and return our final statements. So if this argument, if this function does not meet this argument, or if this number does not satisfy this argument, it will now call this other function, this other argument. If it does not satisfy this, it will now return 0. So you understand the whole point of the control in the control flow. Okay, yeah, unmute. Let's hear.
Okay, good morning, sir.
Yeah, hold on.
Can you hear me?
I can't hear you clearly. Hold on. Okay, speak.
All right. To understand the explanation that you just made. Okay,
Yeah.
if I want to have other statements, okay, what they are trying to say is that I should not be repeating if, whereas I should use else if.
Exactly. So you can actually have else if,
okay.
Like you can have another else if after one else if. Because all you are saying is this
okay.
if argument is not fulfilled, I want to pass another argument. So that means you are now asking another if. So it's like then if you have 100 naira, buy bread for me, right? Then I'll say, that if you don't have that 100 naira now, then I say, okay, else if you have 50, buy a smaller bread for me. Do you understand me?
Yes, understood, sir.
So I can ask like that back to back until I meet so I can get to the point where you don't have any money. Okay, don't buy any bread for me.
All right, I understand now.
Okay, all right. So let's move quickly. Okay, let's do something that looks a little complicated, but it's not. So let's check if a number is divisible by 3 or 5, right? In fact, let's say 3 and 5. So let's define the number as C equals to, let's say 25. Okay, let's say 15 first. All right. And then we now say if the number, right? If C is divisible by 3 and the remainder is 0, right? But since we want to have two different arguments fulfilled in this very if statement, we can now say, yeah, just like that. So we can now say, and the same number, right, is divisible by 5. So what we are saying is, if this divides this number and has 0, and also divides and this also divides this number and has 0, we want to console.log we want to console.log C plus is divisible by 3 and 5. Okay? Are you following? Okay. All right. So we go on to the next. So we say if it doesn't fulfill this, we want to ask another question. We want to now say, okay, let's assume that it fulfills only one from here, right? So we say C 3 equals to 0, right? So if it fulfills only this one, we want to return that. Yeah, so I know my tab 9 sometimes knows what I want, so I will still explain what came up there. So yeah, else if we now say, okay, if this number is divisible by 3, right? We want to say C is divisible by 3. Same thing for this now. So you see what I just talked about with the else if and the else if. So I'm using the else if again because I still have another argument I want to pass, right? So I now say console.log, yeah, divisible by 5. Then I can now say else console.log is not divisible. Yeah, so I can now say it's not divisible by 3 or 5. That means in this case now, it doesn't meet any of these criteria. Are we good? Yeah, okay. Okay, all right. So okay, so for this very function now with 15, what do you think would log to the console? That's the question. So I want you to answer first, then we'll see what it looks like in the console. Divisible by 3 and 5. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's look at that. So yeah, 15 is divisible by 3 and 5. So, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, you can see that 15 is divisible by 3 and 5. Let's assume that we put a number that cannot, okay, no, this can be divided. Yes, yeah, let's use 10. So, what's going to be fulfilled here? This one, right? This one is going to be fulfilled. So, this is what we are expecting to see in our, yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we're now going to get 10 is divisible by 5, right? So let's assume that we have like 2, right? Or we have like, let's say 25. Uh, 20. Okay. Okay, you want us to use 26. Okay, all right. So let's say 26. What comes out from 26, right? It's not. Okay, good. So 26 is not divisible by 3 or 5. So do we understand what is happening with the whole control flow concept now? All right, okay. So let's us try something, another control flow. Let's try looping. So there's what we call it for loop. So let's say, if we say let's just iterate through a particular array. Okay, yeah, I see it now. What's your question? You can unmute and talk.
Okay, sir. I wanted to say something. I asked a question actually on the chat, but I didn't put a question mark. So maybe you assumed it was a statement. I want to
Okay.
ask, when we used 15, let's see, be 15. It took the
Mhm.
first one. Does it mean that it takes the first one that corresponds to that agrees with the condition? Because
Yes,
all of it seem to agree with the condition, but it
yes.
just
So
console
this is the
logged.
thing now.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a nice question. So I think gospel is giving an answer there. Yeah. So I'll get to you, Josephine. I promise. Just let me respond to Udo. So for this now, first of all, it flows from the top, right? So if it's flowing from the top, once this is fulfilled, once this condition here is fulfilled, right? It doesn't have any need to run the code anymore. So it stops here. It's only when this condition is not fulfilled that it now goes on to do the next condition. Just like the analogy I gave, right? So if I say, if you have 100 naira, buy bread for me, right? If you have 100 naira, you bought the bread. So I don't even need to tell you if you have 50 naira again, right? Or if you, do you understand? Okay, well, not in all cases. In this case, no. Okay, Udo, all right, good. So, Josephine, let me hear you. Tayo Lua, I'm coming. I'll be with you.
Okay. So what I wanted to ask is that, does it really matter the way you arrange it? Because I noticed that on line 100, you put the 2 conditions. So what about if you move, that I'm just thinking, it's okay, my first thought that came to my mind was, if what is on line 104, you put it first, and you now put this line 100, maybe on line 105, will it still work like that? I just want to know that if I interchange the condition, as far does it matter the way you arrange it? That's my first question.
Okay. So yeah,
Then okay,
yeah.
let me just ask everything so that you just answer everything at once. Then the second one is
Okay, hold on, just hold.
so that, okay, let me just ask the two so that you just answer everything as well. Then the second one is, in this if condition, is it possible that I write 2 if, like if I don't want to use if else, I just use if for the first time and use if again. Is it possible, or I must go with this syntax? Thank you. Please, I cannot hear anybody. Is it just me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Okay, I can hear you now. Sorry, it's not network.
Okay, all right, okay, my bad. I think I muted myself on the other device because I'm worried that our recording might not be taking the audio. Okay, so let's go on. So if for this now, it's a control flow, right? That's the whole point of a control flow. It needs to flow from somewhere to somewhere. Do you understand? And it's a syntax. So yeah, I saw someone say something like it will work, but it isn't advisable. Yeah, there's what they call conventional way of doing things, which is why I won't come on the call and teach you to do if and if again, right? But there are many scenarios where you actually use if without even using the else. And even if you want to define another if, you can define a new if without even attaching it to the first if statement, right? To settle another condition. That happens. But in a control flow, it's ideal that you define the else before the if. Is that clear?
Yes, I understand that one now. Then for the arrangement, if you arrange it, if you change the arrangement, it will still work.
Which of the arrangements exactly?
Like
Yeah.
what I'm saying is on line 100, this one that is on line 100, if
Yeah.
I move this to maybe my first thought that
Like
came
the
to my mind,
arguments, like the
yeah,
argument. So if you
and
move
the
this
argument,
argument to this part,
yes, to maybe line 105,
and then you
line
take this
104,
argument and bring it.
change it. Yes, change it. Will it
Okay,
still?
of
Uh-huh.
course. Yes, of course. So now, the only difference now is that it is going to run this one first. Then if this one does not satisfy, it will now run this one. There's no difference. But for this kind of scenario, in this kind of use case, let me call it a use case. In this use case, I won't necessarily want to check only one first. Do you understand? I want to check
I understand you.
for the multiple options first, then break them down further in my control flow to assess other possibilities. Do you understand?
Okay, I understand.
Exactly. So now I will not go straight to ask to write for only divisibility of C and 3, right? When I have 5 to also make inquiries for, I want to do the 2 first before I now move forward to handle them individually. Then I now want to handle a scenario where none of them works. Is that okay?
Yes, I get you. Thank
All
you.
right. You're welcome. Use them on this condition is true. Okay, so I like what's happening in the chat box. I like the fact that you guys are sharing your thoughts. So for other people, you can definitely discuss these things in the chat box while we have our class, right? But for now, I think we need to move forward. Josephine, did I respond to you? Or are you satisfied with the explanation that has
No,
been
I'm very sad. I'm okay. Thank you. Thank
all
you.
right? Okay, all right. You're welcome. Okay, so let's just quickly do a for loop, or we are going to stop at for loop, and then so that we can do other things. Okay, we still have some time. So let's say we want to iterate and display cars in an array, right? So we define the array, and then we say, let's say Ferrari. I'll give my Ferrari if it's not correct. And then we say Lamborghini. Maybe we should use simple cars that we have in Nigeria. Let's say Camry. And then we have men's. Then we have which other card now? Who should suggest? Yeah.
Toyota.
We have Camry now in there. Camry is Toyota. Okay, let's
Okay,
say
okay.
Nissan. Okay, yeah,
Honda. Honda. Okay.
that's enough. Okay. Okay, let me just throw in BMW for that person that threw BMW. Oh, yeah, bringing Elon Musk to our class. Okay. All right. Okay, that's fine. I think we'll stop here. Are we together? No, I still want to give that person BMW. All right, good. So we want to iterate through this array, right? So what happens? So who can explain briefly what this function, what this statement is going to do? You want to speak? Okay, go ahead, go ahead. Who is that? Who is raising his hand? Udo? You want me to add Lexus? Let's move on. Let's leave the cars first. Let's continue. Okay, so,
I'm raising my hand.
okay, speak now. Go ahead. You want to explain it for us, right?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, go ahead. That's fine.
Okay, we have array of cars that has Camry, Benz, and the rest. So the for loop is like defining, like, we use let to define a variable. So it's like let I be equal to 0. So the second one, when I is less than car dot length, since car is an array, we are getting the length of the array. So what it means that the variable that we just defined should not be more than the length of the array. Then that I plus plus means that increment is more like I is equal to I plus 1. Then console.log car, then the I inside is like you're replacing each iteration of I. Just like car block bracket of everything. 0 will give you Camry. So it's more like you're going through it one by one.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you for that. That's very, very spot on. So did anybody not understand what she said, or do you guys need further explanation for what she just talked about? Because she was spot on. Do you need me to add more light? You want me to add? Okay, Josephine says no. Okay. Okay. Okay, let me just confirm what she said. So yeah, so this here initializes this this I is supposed to represent each of these elements of this array, right? So this I, now we are initializing it to an index of 0, right? And then we are saying that if this I is less than the length of the array, as far as it's less than the length of the array, we want to iterate through it. And when we are iterating, we want to add one index to this present index. So if we started from index, if we are displaying it now, we are starting from index 0. We want a scenario where when we iterate through it, because this length, this I is less than this, we want to replace this value with a new index, which is being incremented by this. Are we okay? Are we good? Can you understand? Or do you understand? Good. So what happens now is that when you come to the console, you see that it displays Camry, then displays Benz, then displays Nissan, then Tesla, then BMW, right? So it's not going to display everything at once. It's going to pick them one after the other. But after picking this index, it now increments the index. So that this index becomes index 2. So on the next display, it now displays the value that is in index 2. And then continues like that till this. It continues like that till this I is exactly the same length. So until once this index is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, once it gets to the fourth index, it has reached the length of this array. As soon as it gets to that length of this array, it will stop this iteration. Are we good? Just give me a thumbs up if we are good. Okay, all right. Yeah, you were asking about a switch case. Okay, let's just quickly do a switch case. So let's say let's day of week. Week be equals to Monday. Yeah. Then let's define message, but we are not actually going to be writing. We are just defining it, but we are not going to give it a value. Are you following? Okay, all right. Let me scroll up. So if I say switch, so what we want to check for is the day of the week, right? So I say switch, then I want to check the day of the week. Then when I check the day of the week, I want the first case that I want to handle. Yeah, is Monday. So what this does is what this does is message. So I'm now going to define the message I want to get. If it is Monday, I want to get a message of today is Monday. So it doesn't have to be this long. Let's just use Monday and Tuesday. Okay, so yeah. So are you following me? So if we have this day of week now, then we have different cases we want to handle, right? And then we also define the default case. So in this first case, I want to check if it is Monday. So if it is Monday, I want to display this message. Today is Monday, right? And that means if this is fulfilled, as if this case is fulfilled, right? I'm going to break here. It will not run again. But if this is not fulfilled, it will skip this break and go ahead to check the next case. Are you following? Good. So since today is Monday, if we check, it's going to say I didn't console the message. So we console or log the message because we want to display this to the console. Yeah. Nice. Thanks. Yeah, that's what I want. I want you guys to be speaking like this in the text box when something is not, when something is missing, so that we can be fast. So console.log message, we come here and then we can now see today's Monday, right? So let's assume that we have Wednesday here. Yeah, okay. And we check, it should you should tell us it's an invalid date, day of the week, right? So this is like a simple example of how you can use a switch case. So this is also a control flow. So are we good? Do we understand? Okay, man, Alabita, yes, is capital yes. So it's like you really understand. Well done. Okay. Okay, I'm happy you guys are following. How many of you do we have in the class today? Okay, 30. But it seems like some people are not with me in this class. I'm just getting responses from a particular set of people. Alabi, Joseph, Obioma, Abubakar. Does it mean the others don't understand what's happening or you are shy to text? Ajoke, yeah, your hand is raised. So we are shy.
Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Ajoke. Yeah.
Thank you for the class.
Yeah.
Please, I want to make a suggestion, please.
Okay.
The chat box, most times when we are chatting on the chat box, it comes to the screen of the of the class. So it's always disturbing. So I really don't mind if you can just make it available that if anybody has something to say, let them just raise their hand instead of distracting the class with all the, because the messages most times when you even put something on the chat box, we don't get them because a lot of messages are overwritten them. So it's not that we are not following, but because the messages are just too much.
Okay. All right. So this is what you can do. You can reduce the size of your chat box and keep it maybe to the right top corner, because that's exactly what I'm doing. So
that is only possible for somebody that is using a laptop. Like someone like me, I'm using my phone.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll permit those who are using their phones. You can just raise your hand when you have something to say. I'll always see it and I'll acknowledge and give you the mic to speak. Okay. All right. So, but we can move on now, right? Yeah, just continue the text box. I said I'm permitting only those who are using phones. So for people who are using phones, if you want to say something and you don't want to be distracted from the actual view of my VS Code, you can raise your hand and I'll respond to you and listen to you. Is that okay? But moving forward, it's ideal and advisable.
Please, I have another question, please.
Hello, hold on, Ojoke. So moving forward, it's ideal and advisable to use a laptop to attend your classes, because the whole idea of these classes, you are supposed to be doing, it's advisable to do while you learn, because you just watching does not really cut it, right? You want to learn and practice. That is how you get better. So yes, and please, yeah, exactly. So do well to raise your hand before speaking. Let me tell you to on the mic first before you speak. Ajoke, you can speak.
Hello?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, please, this is not part of the class. It's like I'm doing something on my system that I ran into a problem, so I don't know if you can help me. Actually, yesterday on Monday when we were doing the class, I installed Tailwind on my project. So I'm trying to start it now. It's not starting. So I can't access my console. I've tried everything. I think I'm not getting it.
Hello, Ajoke, can you hear me?
Yes, but faintly.
Can you hear me now?
I'm hearing you.
Okay, this is what you need to understand. We're having a class now. It's not ideal that you are doing something else while we're having a class. So first of all, you are using your phone to attend the class and you are using your laptop for something else, right? That's what you mean.
No. It's what we are doing. I only added stuff
What
for
we are doing,
styling.
okay, so what we are doing has nothing to do. We have not actually created any components. So I don't even see a scenario where you want to be adding styling in what we are working on now. We are working on control flows. There is no styling. We are looking at things in the console. We don't have any need for styling at the moment. Please, let's be focused on what we are doing at the moment. It's very important. When we get to styling, trust me, you will style what you need to style. And then moving forward, if you have questions that are not related to the actual things that we are doing on the class, please channel those questions to the Discord group. And trust me, you will get a response, either from me or from your colleagues. Is that understood? Gospel, you are making me laugh. Say you style the hard way. Yeah, of course, you will get all the styling you will style. So just be patient. When we get to styling, you will style. Okay? Thank you. All right, so I think we can move forward. We've lost a lot of time. We have just an hour and 4 minutes left. Okay, so we are done with switch case. Let's move on. So how many of you understand what JSX is? Okay. Yeah, so okay. So who can like tell us just a little glimpse? What do you understand by JSX? Text box, please. Just text box. Don't. All right, Obioma. We'll try to sort that out. Okay, Josephine, go ahead, unmute your mic. Yeah.
Okay, the only thing I know about it is that it's a combination of HTML and JavaScript. Like you're writing both HTML and JavaScript in a variable.
Okay.
That's what I know.
Yeah. Okay, Jessam, let's hear you.
Okay, so JSX as JavaScript XML is basically used for React to impute your HTML code into your JavaScript, basically for UI.
Okay. Yeah, Faith, I see your response. Yeah. Obioma, don't worry, we just listen to other people's response. You will get to know better about JSX. Alabi, you want to talk about JSX? Go ahead.
Okay, hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so to me, it allows to write JavaScript and HTML in a single file.
Okay.
So basically, it allows us to describe what the UI will look like, basically. So that's it. For me.
Yeah. That's Alabi, right? That just spoke.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Drop your hand. Once you speak, drop your hand so that I can see other people that have their hands up that have not spoken. Okay, Adaobi, let's hear.
Okay, I just want to add to what they said about the JSS.
Okay.
So it's used to write JavaScript and HTML, but it also has rules and regulation, like you must wrap it around a parent div. So it has some rules and regulations too.
So it has a syntax, right?
Yes, syntax.
Okay. All right. Okay. Nice. Okay. Yeah, you guys did good there. That's Adobe, right? Okay. Yeah, you can drop your hand. Faith, I'm with you. You want to speak? You are already giving us plenty in text box. Do you still want to speak? Okay, all right. Thank you. So yeah, so JSX is a syntax extension for JavaScript, right? So it was created by React. It allows developers to like write HTML-like code within JavaScript. Are we together? Obioma, I hope you are following. Am I clear? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? Okay, all right, cool. All right, so basically the purpose for JSX is to describe what the UI should look like in React applications. So it allows us to write components that combine markup and logic in a single file. So markup is where HTML comes from, and then logic is JavaScript. Are we together? All right, so we have tags. There are tags too in JSX, right? So for tags in JSX, they are actually HTML-like, right? They are like identical in a way with HTML tags, but they are defined within JavaScript, right? And they are enclosed in angle brackets, similar to HTML. So JSX attributes follow a camel casing naming convention. So what's camel casing? Let me just create a file, and then okay. So this is camel casing. Okay, so do you understand this? Unlike basic HTML that we use, let me use an example. Okay, let's use an example of class name, right? So class name, this is how we call class name in JSX, but in normal HTML, we just use class. Now, there are scenarios where I've used just class and it worked, right? But what's like the normal conversion is this, is using class name for JSX. When you are adding, probably when you want to style or when you want to do who was that styling woman that we just spoke with now? Yeah, so yeah, that's that for Ajoke, yes. So Ajoke, we'll soon get to your styling very soon. Yes. So yeah, we use camel casing instead of kebab casing, like camel casing for JSX. Let's assume you want to do an on click. You know, in HTML, on click is like this, right? But in JSX, this is what an on click looks like. So you notice that once you call the first word, from the second word, you capitalize the second word. Now this is the most used naming convention in React. So even when you are defining your classes, say you want to start something and you want to define your classes. For me, I mostly use camel casing because it's like something that is widely used, right? But it's fine if you want to use maybe the kebab with that is like this. Maybe you want to define your class name for a text and you want to say text box and you say text box, you can do that in your class. But for me, I would say text box. Do you get? Are you following? I want to move fast, please. You guys should respond ASAP. Okay. All right, then so React uses a virtual DOM, right? To optimize hello, can you hear me? So React, okay, yeah. React uses a virtual DOM to optimize updates, right, on the UI. So JSX describes what the UI should look like, and React updates the actual DOM efficiently by comparing the virtual DOM with the real DOM. Are we together? Now, another thing JSX does for us is that it promotes a component-based architecture, right? So that's why we always say React is a component-based library, right? Because it helps you to componentize your code. So you can have components like, you can have a reusable component like a button component that you can use globally throughout your application without actually defining a new button. So you're like reusing the same button. You can tweak the colors of that same button in different parts of your code, but it is the same component you're using, right? You can change the names on the button and all that. We'll get to that point eventually, right? All right, so I think, I don't know, you guys, is there anything you don't understand so far so that I can maybe quickly, are we good? Can we move? All right, okay. All right, so we'll be using Vite to create our React application for many reasons, because as the former ways we use create React app is absolute and not maintained anymore and slow. So developers have moved to using Vite for compiling, because Vite is faster, right? So we'll be using Vite basically for our project. So let's go ahead and create our React app. So to create a React app, first of, let me ask, have you guys, is everyone, or should I put it this way, do you all have Node installed in your system, the latest version of Node? Okay, awesome. All right, awesome. Okay, all right, that's good. So we'll start with npm. Yeah, okay, well done. npm. So npm is okay, nice. So we're using npm to install or create our app. So I'm just going to say npm init, and then I'm going to call Vite. So what Vite does now is it helps us, it gives us our templates, like we can select our templates and select everything we want and how we want our application to, or what we want to build our application with on that Vite, right? So let's create. So the first step, it asks if you want to install the create Vite, and you say yes. Good. Then now request for your project name. So let's call it day 2. All right. Good. So we now, you see that you can use this for vanilla. You can use it for Vue, React, Preact, Light, Svelte, Solid, Quick, and others, right? But we are focusing on React. So yeah, you can also use TypeScript, depends on what you want to do. But This is a JavaScript class, so we are going to use JavaScript. You're asking about Preact. Okay, just do your research on it. Trust me, do your research on it. So yeah, that's a good question. So what you're going to do for me is you're going to research what WC is. That will be your take home. So let's go ahead. Yeah, did you forget that? Did you hear me? Did you hear me? Okay. So gospel has already helped you guys now. But still go ahead and check it because I want you to understand it properly and why we are using it. Because I can still use normal JavaScript anyways. So let's go on. Let's just speed up. So first of all, I'm going to CD into the actual folder where I'm working. But for me, I like to just be in the folder. So I'm going to move to that folder directly. Okay. Terminal. So what I want to do, I want to install my node, right, into my application. Okay, so are you with me? So yeah, it might take few seconds before it installs. So yeah, what happens next is after installation, we can move forward. But let me just explain what is going on here. So this is what we just installed, the node modules, or this is what's installing now, the node modules. So typically, you're not going to be writing anything inside the node modules. Okay, yeah, so the steps, init, npm init. Let me write it in the text box. So npm init, right? Then you want to select, yes, when prompted. Then you want to select, you want to write your project name. Then you want to select how you want to compile it.
Where are you writing it?
In the text box, don't worry, I've not sent it. You will see it. Is that fine? Hello, are we together? Okay, all right. Okay, then you want to write the name of your project. Then you want to select what you're using. If it's React, you want to select React. Then you want to select if it's JavaScript or TypeScript and how you want to compile. So you now want to select JavaScript. Yeah, okay. So it's in text box now, you can check it. Okay, can I move down? Can I move, please? Are we good? Can I go on? Yes, okay. So we have node modules. So like I said, we just installed the node modules. It has installed successfully. Now, these node modules typically will not write any code inside the node modules. This is the public folder. The public, you don't necessarily have to do anything in the public folder, but here is where the assets, it is where all your code is going to reside inside the SRC, right? So you have the right to build folders here, define your components here, and all that inside SRC. So this is the entry point. This is the entry point for your application. This is the main.js. This is what is going to, this is where we are displaying to the DOM, right? This is where we are displaying everything now to the actual UI that we have, that we will build eventually, right? So now this app here, before now, we used to have app, but now we have main.jsx. But this app now is where, when you create, you have your default code here. Let's just see what it looks like on the browser. So let's npm run dev. Let's npm run dev, and then we see what we have on the browser. Let me bring this down. It's taking up too much space. Okay, so we have this server running now. This is where our application is being hosted at the moment locally. No, you have your images inside SRC. So you create, don't worry, we'll get there. Let's take it step by step, okay? So we're going to take this out and place this. Good. So, all right. So this is our. Josephine, you have a question? Go ahead. Let me hear.
Okay, you said that we should wait, that we'll take it step by step. Because I noticed that there are some things up. Imports, one thing up. You did not start from there.
All this, right? Yeah, that's fine. We'll get there.
Okay. Let me wait.
Take it step by step. Let me just show you around on the React application, okay? Then we'll come back to that part. My own is different. You want to ask a question to Matthew? Or can you guys sort Matthew out in the text box so that we can move forward for those that know what to do with creating the React app? So we'll not stay in one place for long. All right, good, okay. So yeah, so we have the app.jx, right? JX, and then this app, this is where we handle global styling. We can also handle global styling here in our index.css, right? Any style you apply here will affect the whole application. That's why if you notice, most of the styling that's done here is on the tags, because they are trying to do this, they are trying to utilize the styling here on all the tags in the application. But typically we'll not use this because we can clear this out and build our own styling, and yeah, definitely have our own styling. Same thing with the app.css, right? So yeah, so this is the app. This point now, what they are doing here, they just created a simple counter, right, as a demo for when you initially create the application. So if you click here now, as I'm clicking on this button, you see that it's incrementing, right? But that's for later, we'll talk about it. So let me take us to the next step of things. I want us to handle models and importation, right? So now that I've deleted everything here, if you look at the browser, you see that it is blank, right? There's nothing wrong. It's just that we've not added any elements to the DOM. So if I come here now and I decide that, okay, I want to create a new element, right? And I want it to be in a folder called components. Right? Okay, so inside this folder, I want to define a component called, let's say module, models, the JSX. Now, I know you want to ask models, is it like is it a standard? This is just the name of something. I just thought about it and I decided to use it, okay? So now, inside this module now, I want to define some, hello, can you hear me? Are we together? Are we together? All right, okay. So let's go. So we want to define models. So let's start with const add. So this is a simple model that is adding a variable A and B, right? It's a simple function, right? But now what we want to do, we can utilize this function here within this code, right? By saying, yeah, well, if we utilize it here, it will not display to the DOM. Let's say console.log add 9, right? So this is A and this is B. So this is the function that we just created up here, right? So if I console log this now, we are not going to see anything in the console. Who knows why that happens? Who can tell us why that happens? Or why that happened? Yeah, Udo, go ahead. Hello, Udo, go
Sorry,
ahead.
coach. I've been raising my hand for some time now.
Are you serious?
I'm lost as it is right now.
Oh, wow.
First of all, I need to understand where you created the components. There are a lot of things on the right hand,
Okay,
on the
good.
left hand bar.
So were you listening to me when I was talking about this part of the code? Huh? Can you
I
hear
think
me?
I can hear you. I think I lost
Okay, so
it
let me
there.
try again. Let me try to explain to you. These are all folders. You see this now. This is a folder. This node models is a folder that contains the node models. Okay. Now this node models is something that we installed into this React app when we did the npm install after creating the application.
Okay,
right?
so it came with the installation.
Yes, this one comes with the installation. Everything here comes with creating the application first, right? The public folder, the SRC. Now, this public folder, you are not writing code inside the public folder, but inside the SRC is where you are going to be writing all the code. So this is where you're going to be creating your components and creating your styles and all whatnot, right? So
Okay.
on default, this application comes with an app.js, which is a component of its own, right? So it's the initial component that's built with this application, which is this component that we're looking at here.
Okay.
Good. Now we have a default styling index.style, .css rather, right? And then we also have another default app.css. So this relates to this, and this relates to this. But in whichever case, these two CSS affects globally.
So, sorry to cut you short. The app.css relates to what? I know that the app.js relates
app.js,
JS
yeah.
relates to
Yeah,
the
so if
index.css.
you see here, we are importing app.css, right? So the app.css here relates directly to app.js,
Okay.
but app.js. But now, because this app.js is an entry point for all our components to come into, any styling we do in app.css will also affect every other. You can style every other component in the application from the app.css, and you can also do the same from the index.css, because they are both entry points. They are like global entry points. So if you see here, we're also importing index.css here, right? Is that clear?
Yeah.
Okay, then we have ESLinks. This is something that comes pre-installed from when you install when you create your app. This gtignore comes when you create your app. This is the actual DOM representation now of what we are building. So you see this ID is root, right? This is the HTML that we are going to display on the browser.
Okay.
Good. So this HTML now, we are using this ID, right, to display everything we want to display within this div.
Okay.
Yes. Now that's why we are defining React DOM dot create root, and this is the root, the ID that we are talking about. So we now document and we get by ID, right?
Yeah.
Are you following? You
Yes, I
understand
am.
from JavaScript now?
Yes, I get it.
Good. So we now get this ID. So this ID now is what we are using to render our application.
Okay, please, a quick question before you continue.
Yeah.
The that this index.html, we didn't create it, it came with the
Yeah.
installation, right?
Yeah, it came with the
And the
installation.
root also came, everything that is inside it came with the
Yes.
installation. So,
Yes,
but we
exactly.
can we decide to change the name of that ID and then come to our this to here to main.js and change that ID? Can we do
Yes,
that?
of course, you can change the ID. If I change this ID here, let's say I change the ID here to let's say good,
So
right?
maybe to the name of what it is you're building, or
Yeah,
is it
yeah, you can do
okay?
that, but there's no need for it, because why we use roots is because we want to know anywhere we see roots, we want to understand that this root is the root of our project. It's like a
Okay.
tree. You want to say, okay, there's a root that this our tree is coming out from, right? So this is our root. So it's just ideal that you call it the root of your project.
Okay.
You give it the ID root, so that, because even in styling, if you go to the index, you see that there's a place where they are styling the root
Root.
ID.
Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay, because you want to just have it there that, okay, this thing now is a dedicated keyword, or is a dedicated ID that we have given to the root of our application.
Okay.
Good. So this main now is the entry point where we are now rendering to that HTML. Now you see this app here. Now this app is this very app here, this app.js, right? It is this very app that we have here that came with the application, right? And all we are doing
Okay.
is we import this app, and then we display it here. So it's also part of the entry point. So this entry point is receiving the app, whereas the app is receiving all other components that we are going to build.
Okay. If I understand what you're saying,
Okay.
the app receives. Um, Hold on. Sorry.
It's okay.
Whatever happens in the
Yeah,
DOM,
just
that's the what will be displayed on our browser
okay.
happens on the index.html, right?
Okay, yeah.
Now, and then the index.html, um, I need to understand the connection, what you do on the app that affects the index.html.
Yeah, so like that's what I just described. So let me do something. Let's say we want to define a div here, right? Let's assume we define a div, and then we define a h1 tag. H1 is fine. Yeah. and then we add the app in the H1 tag, right? So if this thing is not here, right, what we are going to get is an empty DOM. Nothing is displayed on the DOM. But
Okay.
if I comment it, if I put it back up, you see that we are going to have app on the DOM.
Okay.
Do you understand now? So now
Yes.
this is the app.js, but because we are displaying this app.js inside, we are displaying it inside the main, the entry point, which is here, this one.
Mm-hmm.
Are you following? Since we are
Yes.
displaying it inside here, this
Okay, I
whole
get it. Whatever you write in the app.js will
code,
just display on main.js. So you don't need to write
exactly,
anything on main.js. All you just need to do is
exactly.
more or less like calling the app into the
Yes,
main.js or
just
something.
import it. That's why we are importing the app now. So you bring the app into main.js and then you just render it. So when you render it here now, this whole render method now uses this route now to render it within this HTML tag here, within this
Okay.
div.
Okay.
Do you get now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but basically all this is done under the hood. So you are not really going to be, you don't need to alter any of this for it to work, because it comes like this. But you alter a couple of things when we start doing things like context, when we start using context and probably Redux and using store, right, to handle our state, to do state management, or when we are trying to route between pages, right?
Okay.
Yeah, so but when we get to that part, we'll discuss that. For now, let's just focus on the simplicity of what we just saw, right? So
Okay.
yeah, so we have the package log. So this package log is like everything that is installed in these node models. This is where you can look through everything that is installed in the node models. Then for package.json, this is where you see the actual packages that you are using in the application. You can see the script that you are using to run the application. So this dev now, let's assume you want to, when you want to, I don't know who is writing on my screen. I don't know who is writing on my screen, and it's just not be there. Since the person wants to write, let me allow the person to write. So scripts, yeah. So you can see that it's the module, right? Private. You can see the name of your application. You can see that we're using Vite. So once you call npm run dev, it should run the Vite. It should compile. You want to build, you are building with Vite. So once you put npm run build, you should build. Same thing with linting. We'll discuss linting in a very later time. So yeah, then we have dependencies. You have the dependency. We have React DOM. So this React DOM now is what handles that DOM manipulation, right? React is the application, obviously. Dev dependencies, types, React, yeah, all this is just, but you have ESLint. All the stuff that are installed are represented here, and then ultimately Vite, right? Now, if we install Tailwind in this application, this is where Tailwind would appear. This is where you can check if actually your installation was successful. You can see here that you'll be able to see here that, okay, Tailwind was actually installed. If you are using, maybe you want to install Material UI, and after running the installation, it's inside this package.json that you'll find it, right? Then we have the
Yeah.
README. Yeah, typical. You understand what README is. I don't know. You guys did, I think you're familiar with GitHub and version control, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, so this is like just the README where you talk about your application, right? You talk about how to utilize your application and all that. Then we have Vite config, right? This is also pre-installed once you create the application. Now, coming to the component that I created, this is a folder I created. I just created this folder. simply. So how you can just easily create a folder by coming to SRC, right? Because you want to create a folder within SRC. So if I right click on FRC now, I'll see options to either create a new file or create a folder. But I decide to create a folder and call that folder components, right?
Okay, so that means that I can call whatever folder I'm creating,
Yes, you
what I
can
want to,
create
anything
any,
I want to
yes,
call it.
of course. You can create your folder with any name, right?
Okay.
I hope this conversation I'm having is helping every other person that has their hands raised. Please respond in the text box. Good. Thank you. Okay, good. So if it's helping you, please drop your hands. Just drop your hands. Don't raise it again. So that we can just focus. Good. So now, yeah, okay, just I'll ask the question. Let me finish explaining this. Let's not cut the flow. So let me flow, then when you ask, I can always come back and sort it out. Is that fine, Josephine? Hello, Josephine, can you hear me? All right, good. Components. Yeah, so you can create any name. Like you can have a folder and call it any name you want to call it. Like I can create a folder called users, right? Maybe I want to have a component in here that I'm supposed to display. Jeez, excuse me, I think that is wrong. So maybe I want to create a folder, a component here that I will display users in, right? So I can call it users. So let me just continue with component first, then to avoid complicating things. So in this component now, I want to create a new file called module.jsx, right? Now inside this module, I want to create a module called add. Right, equals to let's say AB. All right, and then what I want to do with AB is I want to add AB and get the sum, right? So now I was saying something about the fact that if I console log it here, add, and then I give it 4 and say 5. Okay, so typically this question is going to, typically when we do this now, the answer is supposed to be an addition of this and this, right? And it's supposed to be viewed on the console, right? Let's be snappy.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. So for this now, if you check the console right now, it's not going to display anything on the console. Now, why is it not displaying anything on the console? Because this model has not been introduced to this app.js. So it is not rendering within the app.js, which is the entry point to render on the DOM. So it will not affect, it will not display anything in this scenario, in that scenario. Do you understand?
Yes, yes.
Good. But now, if I come to this module and I say export this particular add module, right? So I want to export it from this particular place now so that I can use it in the app. And then I come to app, right? And I say import, right? Import add from good. Good. So you see that when I do this, it gives me options to choose which one I want to import, right? But I'm trying to import something from components because we define that models inside components. So I will select components. and then I will now select the model, and then I will now give that add that I want to display, right? Are you following? Hello, are you guys following? Okay, good. So if I come into this code now, right, and I say I want to console.log, that same console.log that we did here, right? It's not still going to show if it's here. So I come here. Hold on. No. Okay, yeah, so okay. Hold on, yeah, I'm trying to sort out something. Format error. Okay. Okay, so my importation was wrong actually. Use only export. Use export default. Okay, yeah. So yeah, for add now, what happened there? What's happening here is that this place now, I'm not defaultly exporting this because I want to define other models within this component. So I want to singularly export them on their own. Do you understand? So only export is fine. But if this was a component now and I just want to export that whole component based on the component structure, right? Or based on the component scope, I can now do like a default export default of that component. That way now, once I export default, I cannot export another model out of that particular component. Is that clear? Alabi, what I just said is not clear. Okay, this is the thing. Just understand that if you want to export a lot of models from one particular file, you export them individually, or you can still write an export and then destructure all of them and send them, right? But I'm going to talk about destructuring and all that. Let's just take care of the simplicity. I will explain the whole concept of exporting to you. Is that fine? Can we move? All right, good. Okay, so we've exported this now, and we've exported it to our application, right? And we have done our console log 4.5. So if we check on line 10 in the browser, we see that that mathematical stuff equation has been implemented. Are we good? Are you following? Are you following, everyone?
Yes, please, a quick one, please, sir.
Who's speaking? Okay, you are still on, right?
Yeah, yes. Please, a
Okay.
quick one.
Yeah.
We imported that ad on top, and that's all we need to do there. We don't need to do we don't need to work with the function app. All we just need to do is impute how we want it returned or something.
Yeah, so you have, as it is now, we have defined this component, this model already, right? It's taking two numbers, and what we want to return is an addition of the two numbers, right? So anywhere you use this add, and you implement these two arguments, as you give it the two numbers, right? It should give you the result of 4 plus 5. Are you with
Okay.
me?
Okay. So if I
So now,
understand what you're saying, yeah, whatever I do, whatever I do in whatever folders that I've created that I want to affect what I'm creating, that's to affect my project, I need to import it into the app.js and um, query or do whatever I want to do under that function in app. I don't know if you get my question. I don't know
So
if you
this is
get.
let me answer that question. I understand what you're asking. So this is what you need to understand that this is not just applicable to this app.jsx, right? You can actually import a model from one file to another file and display it there. Then that's where the concept of children comes in, right? So let's assume you have one component and then you have another component that you want to display within that component. You can import that component into the parent component and display it. Just the way I imported it. So apparently, this model now is like a child model that I want to display in a parent model, which is this app. So this app itself is also a model which is imported into main. Are you following now?
Yeah.
Okay, let me hear from Josephine, please. Mute yourself. Let me hear from Josephine.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
the first question that I wanted to ask was,
Josephine, you have
if
many. This one I'm hearing the first question.
because I've been raising my hand since, but you said I should wait.
Okay, carry on. My apologies. Carry
No, it's fine. So the first question, you said that anytime I make any change in my index.css, it will automatically reflect in my app.css. Abi?
No. It will reflect in your app.css. You can style different components within your project from this app.css and index.css because they are global style components. You get? So what I mean by global style component, okay, let me ask first, what do you understand by global in the scope of a project?
Okay, when I hear global, it means that anywhere you are using that thing, it will still apply.
Good,
In that
exactly.
project.
Exactly. So in that case now, what we are saying is this index.css is a global styling component. That app.css is a global styling component. There's a chance that maybe I want to style this module separately. I'll come here and I'll define a style for the module. I'll say module.css. Do you understand? And then I'll
Yes.
import this module into my module folder where I want to do my styling, where I want the style to affect, right?
Okay.
Do you get? So I'll come here and import this CSS now into this place. Now, any style I put inside this model is going to affect only this model. So it is component scoped.
Okay.
Yes, it's component scope. This one now is component scope. It affects only this model because it is only imported, except I import it into another component. Then it can also, the styling there can also affect that component. But for app.css and index.css, it can affect any part of the project because they are global style, components. Are we clear?
Okay, so you are saying now that if I'm writing my CSS, maybe I want to say the border is red. It's an example in my index.css. And it doesn't mean that, from what you have said so far, it doesn't mean that immediately I write it on index.css, it will just jump into app.css. No, it just means that index.css styling can also be applied for the border that I am talking all throughout the project. That's what you mean.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. So in essence, let me break it down further for you, right? Let's assume we have two components, right? And these two components we want to style them using the global style, right? Now we have a button in one component, and we have let's say a table, or let's just say a normal div in the other component. So now we want to give the button in this first component a background color of blue. Are you following? Good.
Yes.
So if you want to give that button a background color of blue, We can do that from the app.js. All we need to do is give that button a class name, bring the class name to app.css, and then style it just normal, how you used to style your normal stuff from anywhere. Like this is a random button component that we're talking about, right? Good. Now, let's assume we want to also style the other div that is in another component, right? We can also give that one its own class name and then style that one within this app.css.
Okay, I understand. I understand. That one is clear. It's
Good.
clear.
So that is what we mean by global scope. So anything, any place you want to style, you can actually bring it here and style it, even though we don't consider it as a very clean way of writing code anyway, because you cannot, there are some projects that can be so large that you want to be able to keep track of your styling, right? So you might want to bring your styling down to component-based styling, right? So that you can have, each component can have their own style. Do you understand?
I understand that one that you have. I understand.
Good.
I understand.
But for projects that are not really complicated, maybe you just want to have a landing page and you can afford to have all your styling in one place. You can do everything inside the app.js or inside the app.css. Or you can even as well style it inside the index.css because they are both global style components. Yes.
Understand.
Please, any other person has any issue with this very explanation I just gave? Are we there? Nobody? All right, good, excellent. So Josephine, I believe you are good now. I can move on, right?
Yes, move on.
Okay, good. So let's just, do you guys understand the whole module concept that I explained with this? Yes, all right, okay. So let me create another, we can do as many modules as possible as we want and export all of them. So let's say export const subtract, right? That's going to work too. Whichever, you can do multiply, you can do whichever, right? But the whole point here is that you are exporting these models and using them in another application, in another component, right? So I think we have like how many minutes to go? 7 minutes to go. So unfortunately we'll have to stop here for today. We'll have to stop here for today. Hopefully by our next class we can do the structuring and maybe we can also do arrow for, yeah, I think we'll start with class functions, right? Class components rather. So maybe for our next class, we'll start with class components, or maybe we'll start with arrow functions. Because I know from last class, somebody asked the question about arrow functions, right? Yeah. Let me give you guys an assignment. Your assignment first, in fact, that's like a standard. Everybody has to create their React application. That thing is not assignment. SWC is not even used to be assignment. Are we good? Okay, I think I can stop recording now so that we can move. All right, thank you guys for today. That was a good class.